guys, Jujube here. It's Tuesday, so time for another episode of Total War Tuesday, where we play a best of 3 small funds mini tournament on any title from the Total War franchise. Now today we're going to be getting into Total War Rome 2. I'm playing against BOODIEMAN, and rather fittingly, actually pretty much the opposite, I'm taking Macedon, as BOODIEMAN is a big fan of the old Mackie DDs. So let's just jump in here and introduce our armies very quickly. I've got Levy Pikemen, either side of my foot companions general. So kind of like a good strong line of pikes. And up front I've got 3 of these mercenary Thracian warriors. I was hoping to engage with my Thracian warriors, hold up the enemy infantry, and then sending my pikes after them and use them to support a fight. This setup can work very, very well, exceptionally well, if the opponent doesn't see it coming or doesn't react to what I'm doing. So I was kind of banking on the fact that he would underestimate my build and would not really see it coming, or wouldn't have experienced this kind of thing before. So it was a bit of a gamble, but I felt pretty confident. BOODIEMAN doesn't play a whole lot of these small funds games, so I got a little bit cocky, and I think it's fair to say I did underestimate him. So we'll see what happens to the rest of the battle. So either side of my hoplites, my pike line, I've got some of these militia hoplites. Now these guys are very heavy spear infantry. I had no idea that they were very heavy. To put a unit as cheap as this in a class like very heavy, in a weight class like that, is absolutely intense. So if these guys get charged, they can probably hold up quite a lot of units fairly well, including elephants, chariots, cavalry charges. So they'll probably do not too bad in that kind of engagement. And I brought one slinger, just a lonely slinger. Now, BOODIEMAN's brought the Ardiaei, very good faction for these small funds battles, because they are able to field some incredibly efficient units. So he's got 2 of these Illyrian hoplites, and then 1 Illyrian marine, and he's got an Illyrian cavalry. Now he does the right thing and threatens to charge me from the front, which is probably a good idea to be honest, but he got caught on this Thracian warrior over here. So I'm going to be able to quickly destroy his Thracian warrior, his Illyrian cav over on this flank. But he gets a very good charge over on this flank over here, so did a great job at disrupting my charges. He's got a Illyrian noble hoplite general, extremely good unit. At the moment it looks like I'm just firing into this blob. We have managed to finish off his Illyrian cavalry, and I'm going to put my foot companion into pike phalanx. So I've just dropped the pikes over on this engagement here as well, and I have engaged his Illyrian marines with my militia hoplites. They're probably not going to do too well in that engagement, but yeah. So I'm very happy that I've gotten rid of his most of his mobility on the field. So we've destroyed this one here. My charges were able to destroy a lot of his units, including this Illyrian marine over here. So I've got a couple of units free. I really should be chasing after his units and just finishing them off before they can do any more damage. But we'll see how that turns out. So I've got my units in pike phalanx facing up against his Illyrian hoplites. They're going to do pretty well there, just holding them off. And in this battle here, we've got a little bit of a buggy formation happening with my militia hoplites. So we are managing to finish off a lot of his units. His Illyrian hoplites are not doing so well in this engagement. He actually pulls out after a while, and I'm going to try and box him in at this point. So I've got him sandwiched up a little bit, and I'm giving him a fair few losses there. He gets a very good rear charge into my militia hoplites to finish them off. They have really very weak morale there. But it looks like the rear of this pike unit is now very vulnerable. So I'm going to form up with my pikes just to defend my own skirmishes while they can take shots at the enemy units. I'm taking shots into the back of this Illyrian hoplite. All of these hoplite units and pretty much the whole Ardiaei roster has very good armor and missile block chance. So I get a charge into his Illyrian noble hoplites with my Thracian warrior. Fairly good charge. I'm gonna send another one in, but he does pull out and run away. I do engage with his Illyrian marines head on with my other militia hoplite, and I put it immediately into a hoplite wall. But I have to make sure that I can defend my own skirmishes, because this is going to be the way that I kill off his Illyrian cavalry. This cav unit's got 30 kills so far, double XP chevrons. I don't know if he added them at the start, but doing fairly well for himself there. So he is threatening me with his mobility, definitely getting into my units here. So I am going to catch a couple of the units before they get to my slingers, but I have to bring my foot companions in. And all the while, he has regrouped with his Illyrian noble hoplite, and he's threatening me on this flank as well. So I'm going to charge in with my Thracian warriors, hopefully use their... See, this is... When formations are in like loose and sparse like this, you cannot use your full charge bonus to its full extent. And I think this is where it became apparent as well. I charged in, he was in loose formation, and I wasn't able to get a good connection. So I didn't actually end up getting that many kills off this charge, whereas if it was a normal formation, I probably would have got a fair few. So I'm going to send my foot companions in. At this point, his general still hasn't died, even though it's down to half strength. So I'm kind of banking on his general dying at some point to be able to deal with any of his units. Now, I think one of my main downfalls in this battle was separating my units, and I also had a bit of bad luck in the fact that my general is about to die. Now, I've sent him in. He is in pike phalanx, so he should be able to hold up, but you can see it's not actually in pike phalanx at all. So there's a bit of a bug there. I don't know what happened. Even though I did put it in pike phalanx, it's just kind of, you know, you can see they've got their swords out and they're trying to fight hand-to-hand combat with Illyrian noble hoplites, which is, of course, suicide. So a bit unfortunate that my formation bugged out there. So I lost another levy pikeman. BOODIEMAN's doing a very good job with his cavalry, bringing them in and out. I've got my other pikeman in here, and I'm attacking his Illyrian hoplite from the side. His general still hasn't died. In fact, he actually destroyed my own foot companion because I had that ridiculous formation there. And it's at this point that a whole bunch of my units start to rout. So a little bit unfortunate that my general died and that the formation didn't really work out too well for me. So yeah, game one goes to BOODIEMAN, even though I thought I had it in the bag. He did a really great job at sticking to it and bringing it back. So game two, I've brought Carthage, and my opponent's brought Pergamon. So Pergamon can field some pretty cost-effective units in the name of these Galatian swordsmen, I think. They're fairly good, but otherwise, you know, there's not really too much that they can bear. He's got two of these light horse that are kind of next to useless unless you're going up against skirmishes. But then he has also got one of these Pergamese noble cavalry. These guys are very heavy shock cavalry, not too bad. But for the price, they're not worth it. They're quite expensive units. So he's got up the front 2 Galatian spears, probably to disrupt any charges I throw in, and then 4 Galatian swords and 2 of these light horse. Over on my side, I've fielded a fairly, what I think is a good army. I've got 3 of these mercenary Gallic warriors, backed up by 3 mercenary Iberian swordsmen, and then 3 of these Libyan hoplites up the back to take out any cavalry he might try to flank with. And I've got a noble cav general and a Numidian cavalry. I'm very interested to see how these guys perform in these smaller fun battle. They are quite expensive. They do have the... I wish that it would stay... Why can't I look at them? Here we go. So 41 missile damage, pretty huge. Range is not too bad. Shots per minute also very good. And if you get them into skirmishes, they can do quite a bit of damage. So I'm going to try not to waste too much ammo on these light horses. So I'm going to try and deal with them in other ways. Because I want to save my Numidian cav ammo to shoot my opponent in the back and do that kind of thing. So just forming up at this point, I'm just going to put it in forward. He is presenting his spears up the front. Probably going to disrupt me with my charges fairly well. So it's at this point that I send my men in. I'm just trying to get a slight uphill advantage at this point. So I'm moving, edging, you know, slowly but surely up the flanks. I don't have any skirmishes, so there's no real way that I can deal with his light horse other than charging them. So I'm going to send my Numidian cav up. Just don't want to waste too much ammo, as I said before, because these units are very cheap. They're not really useful to him. They're not dangerous to me, because I don't have any skirmishes. So, I mean, he could get rear charges, that's true, but, you know, otherwise they're not very useful at all. So I'm going to train my Iberian swordsman on him. These guys have Soliferum javelins, I believe, unless it's been changed in a patch. So they're going to be useful for dealing with these light horse. So at this point I'm going to send in my Gallic warriors into his Galatian spears, getting a bit of hit point damage off the charge. They'll win that engagement hands down, and I get a fairly good charge into his Galatian swords with my my noble cav. Took 2 losses from the from those shots at the start, but you can see how much damage I did off the charge. Knocked down to about half strength there, and I'm going to send my Gallic warriors in to support and probably destroy that Galatian sword. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and pull my noble cav out and go after his light horse. These light horse, being light melee cav, are going to just get destroyed by my noble cav. So in one fell swoop, I've kind of destroyed a Galatian sword and one of his light horse in one go. I'm finishing off his spears up the front. He does get a fairly good... I think he's trying to get... Yeah, here we go. So I turn around my Iberian swords. He does get a fairly good charge into the back of my units here, but again, they are light, so you know their weight class means that they're not going to get too many kills there. So I'm getting some good shots in here with my Iberian swordsman. These Gallic warriors are expendable. I'm not hoping to hold on to them for ages and ages. At this point, my Numidian cav are going to do what they do best, which is, you know, annoying, very expensive cavalry like this Pergamese noble cav. So I'm going to bring my Numidian cav around here to get some good javelins into the back of them. I do have my Iberian swordmen throwing javelins at these light horse, and they're going to do a considerable amount of damage every time they throw a jav. But he does get a good charge in. You can see a couple of user units just kind of bounced off my Iberian swordsman. So they are kind of useless in engagements like that. He's going to charge in his Pergamese noble cav into the back of his own Galatian swords. It did enough damage to destroy one of my mercenary Gallic warriors, but I am finishing off one of his Galatian swords over on that flank over there. He does have a couple of units that are coming back from routing. We do destroy his light horse here, and I'm going to have to turn my Iberian swordsman around and face his Galatian sword. So we have managed to destroy a couple of his units, but it's not really happening fast enough. I'm going to have to try and get through them a little bit quicker if I'm going to deal with his units. So my Iberian swordsman, not the best units in melee combat. And this is a mistake here. So I've got my noble cav on the wrong side of this of his units. I really should have these guys back over here in support of my own units here. So I'm going to charge in and destroy his Galatian spears with my Numidian cav. Even though they are light missile cav, I just need to get a good charge into them to finish them off. He is bringing his Galatian spears back that came back from routing. This Iberian swordsman is pretty much dead. It's pretty much gone, yeah. So we finish off a Galatian spear. I'm going to bring my other Numidian cav around. This is the mistake right here. So I've got this noble cav. I try to run away, sorry. It's a little bit too late, so I'm going to have to turn around and charge into this Pergamese noble cav. So this is not an engagement that I really want to be in, because he's got Galatian spears incoming. He's also got Galatian swords that he could support with. So my noble cav are going to get wrecked. This is not such a good thing when you consider the units that I got left on the field. A lot of them are not disciplined. The only ones that are these Libyan hoplites. So what I'm going to do is bring my Numidian cav around, I believe? No? They're in skirmish mode, so they're doing some weird stuff. So I have to bring them over and support this fight here, but it's a little bit too late because my noble cav has died, and I've just had my Iberian swordsman die over here up against these Galatian swords. So again, my general dies. I misused him, and it's kind of a bit of a lesson here in... Well, I can learn something from it. You know, the general is so precious, especially with these armies where they're made up of, you know, undisciplined troops. So I do have this Numidian cav left. You know, it's doing some weird, buggy, you know, charges, that kind of thing. But it's a little bit too late at this point. He does get a charge into my Libyan hoplites. I'm going to turn around and chase these Pergamese noble cav, get a few kills in the process, and bring these Numidian cav around. So I'm trying to bring something back from this. Trying to get something from this. And I think I was actually out of ammo with his Numidian cav because I'm getting a rear charge into these Galatian swords. I'll get a couple of kills, not too many. But he is using a lot of abilities on this Libyan Hoplite just to finish them off and take them out of the fight. So, BOODIEMAN, hats up to BOODIEMAN. He gets game number 2. I'll just put on fast forward here so you can see me being whittled down. It's a sad sight. It is a sad sight. So both games, there was a point where I thought I had it in the bag and then my general died. So it's kind of a little bit... yeah, it's definitely a good lesson. So in the last game, I thought, whatever, I'm just going to take a shitty faction. So I take the Getae, and I'm hoping to use these Dacian Bowmen to get rid of a whole bunch of enemy units. Very good units. Shots per minute 6. Missile damage is fairly good, 34. And he brings Tylis. So we both got factions that can field some pretty good cost-effective infantry. He's brought a bit of a Sorb spam here. Up the front is 2 Celtic warriors. Behind them is 3 of these Gallo-Thracian warriors and an Oathsworn. Now he's hiding something else. And it definitely fooled me. So we'll see later on the battle where they turn up. So my units got a bit of an uphill advantage, so I'm just going to start walking after him. I'm not going to run. Yeah, just kind of marching my way towards him. Don't want to waste too much energy. My army is composed of 2 of these spear units, very cheap. I don't believe they have precursor javelins, but they're very cheap, kind of like speed bumps for his charges. And I've got 3 of these mercenary, 2 of these mercenary axe warriors. Very good units. They do have a lot of armor-piercing damage, so if I come up against any armor, then I should be able to deal with them fairly quickly. And I have a noble sword general. In terms of generals, his Oathsworn will probably win up in a fight against my noble sword. But I'm hoping to use these skirmishes to soften up a couple of his targets, a couple of his units before I get into combat. And then bringing up the rear is another spear. I had a little bit of money left, so thought I'd throw it in there. So I'm going to bring one of my units over here just to scout out this area, make sure there's nothing hiding. It's at this point that I get to about here. And I actually turned around because I didn't actually see this raiding horseman on the map. So I was like, yep, nothing here. Going to turn my unit around and get ready to threaten his flanks. And he probably does the right thing with his raiding horseman. He's probably going to throw some javelins into the back of this spear horseman here. So good job from BOODIEMAN. Being super sneaky, which is exactly what you need to do in these battles. Bit of deception never goes astray. I'm just going to put it on forward here while he wrecks my horseman, my spear horseman. So at this point, I'm getting some good volleys with my own Thracian cav into the back of his units. He did get a very good volley off with his Gallo-Thracian infantry. But I'm mainly just trying to target this Oathsworn unit here. Again, Gallo-Thracian infantry get a very good jav toss into my spear horseman. So I'm just going to get a charge into this Gallo-Thracian infantry here. All across the front, he is charging me with his Celtic warriors into my spears. They will actually thrash my spears. I'm not really expecting my own units to do so much in that fight. Gonna pull my own spear horseman out of there. I got like maybe 9 kills. That's not very good at all. I really should be getting more. And I actually managed to catch his raiding horsemen here, but they got a fairly good downhill charge. They'll probably do okay in that kind of fight. So he's getting rid of my mobility straight up off the bat. He does destroy my spears with only 20 losses. 2 losses over there. So I have engaged his Gallo-Thracian infantry with my own mercenary axe warriors. They're going to do okay. And I've popped battle rhythm on this axe warrior over here. So I'm going to deal with his Celtic warriors fairly quickly. My Dacian bowman targeting his Oathsworn. Doing a lot of hit point damage, I'm sure. He does destroy my own spear horseman up the back here. And I'm going to have to choose my battles here with this spear unit here. So I do get a good downhill charge with my noble swords here. So we have engaged. I do have a few more units than his Oathsworn unit does. So I'm going to go into shield wall. And I already popped headhunt to get rid of his other units, so it's going to be tired at this point. I'm going to bring my Thracian cav over. I got a spear unit that's coming back from the fight. At this point, I'm just presenting a spear unit. And this unit, what it's going to do is going to refuse a rear charge into my my own axe warrior, and it's also going to mean that he has to waste a lot of ammunition and charges and and you know, volleys into this really very, very cheap spear unit here. So what I'm doing with my Thracian cavalry unit is throwing into the back of this Galathracian infantry. I think at some point I'm going to bring it over and throw into the back of this Oathsworn unit, because that's definitely the main target of this whole fight. It is exhausted. My unit is winning in this certain engagement. My Axe Warrior over here is doing fairly well up against two units. My Dacian Bowmen don't really have a target at this point, so what I should be doing really is targeting these units over here, or possibly, yeah, I should really be targeting this raiding horseman over here, because he's going to get into my rear and start threatening me. At this point, I'm down to 81 men. His Oathsworn is in a very bad place, and I'm going to continue to cycle in and out with my own Thracian cavalry. He is doing the same thing with his raiding horsemen. Now it's at this point that I believe my general died very, very soon. He died again fairly early in the match, which is unfortunate. I was hoping for that unit to hold on for a little bit longer. What I just need from this little engagement here is for his general to die earlier than mine, but it looks like it's not really going to work out that way. He did manage to destroy my Axe Warrior over on this flank, and also on this flank with the rear charge. So using his infantry fairly well to get into my back. At this point, again, I'm just desperate to get his general off the field so I can turn around my Noble Sword to deal with a whole bunch of these other units. I do have one Dacian Bowman left with another up the rear, and if I have a couple of these skirmish units, I can probably kite my opponent to death, you know, just by pulling back and firing on the enemy. So I'm going to have to deal with this Celtic warrior at some point. My Noble Sword has dealt with the Oathsworn, so it's going to be chopping its way through a couple of these Galathracian infantry and other units. It'll be able to tank out this engagement fairly easily. But these units, they're not disciplined, and somehow they're able to hold on after this whole engagement. I was amazed that these very cheap units were able to hold on for as long as they did. The fact that they're being attacked in the rear, even in the flank, their general's dead, they are shaken, they're exhausted, was amazing, the fact that they were able to bring that back. So I've got this Dacian Bowman firing to the rear of this Celtic warrior. Even though it's horrible morale and I get a flaming shot, you'd think that this would push him over the edge, but apparently not. It's just going to keep running. Even though it's exhausted, it's doing horribly. It's taking damage, being shot in the rear. You know, all those morale penalties is not enough to shake and kill it. So I've complained a lot of times about the skirmish function. I'm going to complain again. He manages to catch my unit a couple of times as I'm running away. You can see there, you know, he caught it again. And the Galathracian infantry, or the Celtic warrior, was able to stabilize again, once again. Galathracian infantry chasing down my Dacian Bowman, but at this point it's too little too late. His units have just held up for a lot longer than I was expecting to. And it's game 3 to BOODIEMAN. So, yeah, 3 for 3, BOODIEMAN. Doing really well there. Yeah, it seems like he's gotten very good at the small funds battles. Very good army picks, I've got to say. I was kind of impressed by all of the choices that he made with his infantry picks and stuff like that. But it would be very interesting to have another rematch. I'm hoping to get another battle with him very soon on Total War Tuesdays. And we'll see if we can pull some tricks out of our sleeves. Anyway, Juju Bear signing out. Thanks for watching, guys.